All right, we start with game number 2 in the DanJJing Star League Season 3, round of 8, day 2, Group B. It is Mong versus Last. So remember that Last was the barcode name, and Mong is going to be Flash Friend. So it looks like Mong is going to be spawning at the top left, and Last is going to be spawning down at the bottom right. It's so tough when you don't see those names up at the top right. Sometimes it's just like when you're in the mix of the battle, especially in mirror matchups, it can be hard to keep track of those names. And even as a viewer, I can understand if you guys find it difficult too. But I am your host, Bisudagger. I welcome you to game number 2. And I just say welcome everybody back to being able to watch me. I'm so excited to be casting once again. A little bit of an anecdote as this TVT gets ramped up on La Mancha. Actually, my kid is now 13 months, almost 14 months old. That's crazy. I can't believe it. He's one of the main reasons why I took a break from casting for almost a year, is because I wanted to make sure I could focus and raise him and get sleep. Plus, I've got my job to worry about too, so there was a lot going on. But my kid, he can run around. He is a menace. And I have a giant GG button that my wife got me. And when you press it, obviously, I think it's like Tasteless's voice or you know, some sort of similar sound to it. And it just yells off GG when you press the button. And so, oddly enough, we're sitting on the couch. My kid has just run off to another room in the house. And my wife looks at me and she goes, "Where do you think our son is?" And all of a sudden, we hear GG yelling from the office. And he's running around with the GG button, pressing it. And so it's kind of like our homing beacon now to find out where my child is inside the house. And so every time I hear it, I'm just like, okay, that's where he is. Pretty cool. It's funny that he's playing with it, too, because that GG button was something that scared him when he was younger, like 3 or 4 months old. I pressed it. And he would just start crying. He did not like it. And whenever he could crawl, he started crawling away from that button whenever he saw it. But now it's a fun button to press. The boy gets it, I guess. He had bad manners when he was younger, but now he's good-mannered. Now let's take a little bit of look of how this TVT is progressing in the early stages if you haven't been paying attention and just listening to my stories. Command Center is going to be on the way for both players. You saw the expansion for Mong being built on the high ground, just going to be floated over, a little bit of a precautionary build order. And you can see that the gas is going up for Last. This is definitely bound to be a longer map than the previous one. And it is a... It is a 4-player map, so you know you actually have to do proper scouting. You can't just automatically assume where your opponent is going to appear. So the barracks being also built on the high ground. I wonder what the advantage other than the defensive advantage is for building those buildings on the high ground versus Last, who's like, F it, I'm going to build my command center on the ground and my barracks is going to be up on the high ground. Maybe for a scouting advantage. Because some players will actually only go into the natural and not peek up the ramp and then continue scouting to the next expansion. And so that's one of the ways that it could be helpful is if you have an impatient scouter. This actually happened, I believe, in a game where Best went 2-gate and he did not do a full scout to the proper corner. And then he ended up losing the game because his 2-gate was too far behind. So there's that advantage. Plus, you can actually start building your command center quicker due to the shorter travel time of your SCV. So just a few reasons, not necessarily anything that's game-breaking or important, I think, at this time in the game, especially in a matchup like TVT. Other matchups, it could be important that you build your command center in one location over the other. So barracks or a bunker at the front. I guess there was just nervousness. And, you know, it's rare to see a player just throw away 100 minerals right away. Because pro players have all their build orders just down to such a fine tune that building that bunker means that Last, he was unsure of exactly what Mong was doing. And he wanted to make sure that he did not lose because his Marines did not have the, you know, proper manpower to defend himself. Potentially, maybe he thought, oh, Proxy Factory... vultures just could run in here and demolish my Marines. but it looks like he almost went for a PVT opener instead of the standard TVT openers that you would see. I am surprised again. I think that Last has not been playing as smart as he could be, and had a rough game in game number 1. And it's been a while since we have seen the AlphaGo Last, the DeepMind Last, where he was that player that everybody thought, oh my god, he's the new Flash. He's going to take over an era. And Mong has been so consistently good since the Sonic era. I just love his Terran prowess. And in fact, Mong produces some of the best TVPs in the world, the most entertaining TVTs. Maybe not he's maybe not the best Terran, but he is definitely one of the more exciting ones. Can he play late game or what? Okay, so we're still seeing 2-base versus 2-base, starting to hit that 6-minute mark in the game, and this is where the Vulture Wars do start to pick up. And it's little battles like this that can just kind of set the pace for you as the game continues to go forward. Winning those militia battles is a lot of fun. And in fact, I think it really kind of warms you up. Even if you don't gain huge ground by kind of doing even trades of Vulture versus Vultures, I still think it's really a great way to warm up your hands. And 2, you get a lot of minds and vision out on the map. So at least you're starting to spread yourself and expand yourself. You can see that there's so much blue and red already expanded out here. But here's one of those little battles. Now, can he get in here and actually kill some SCVs? No. So I think that Mong, even though, that wasn't like a huge win, I think that is a nice win for Mong and kind of a boon to his mentality, because he was able to pick off those vultures. They were free. He did not take any damage. And now he's kind of got some sort of vulture mass control up at the top portion of the map. Is he going to go down there and try and poke and prod on Last's side? I think if there's any unit that kind of, if you ever had to play real life capture the flag in a Terran versus Terran matchup, then vultures have got to be like the best unit for capture the flag. Because they're so fast and agile, and it adds so much to the arsenal. So the 3rd base is coming up already for Mong. He's going to take that 3rd base, trying to defend at the 12 o'clock location. Meanwhile, the SCV is heading there a little bit late to build a command center at the 6 for Last. Last has got to be thinking, man, I'm just slightly short on getting that command center out. Mong's going to have that base advantage. How can I punish him for it? Well, you saw that the Wraith was out, and that is important, because you can do a lot with your Wraiths, but Mong, on the other hand, he built a Goliath. So a well-placed Goliath can deal with the Wraith rather effectively unless Cloak is finished and out. So right now, I like what Mong is doing. He's focusing on that barracks, going to try and take it out. He's really trying to establish a patrol between his 2nd and 3rd base to constantly make sure that nothing can run by and that he is in a good position. So here's the Wraith that's chasing away the barracks of Mong, and Last is going to be able to push himself out too. What they want to do is try and get on these spokes here. This minor high ground is going to give them huge advantages, but the tanks don't get there in time. It's vultures only on that high ground, and so actually Last is losing a position that's on his half of the map. So he's losing ground, and this is very, very important. I'm surprised that Mong decided to push off that high ground. You should siege up at least 2 to 3 tanks on that high ground, and then use your vultures to defend those tanks. But instead, he wants to remain mobile and not get caught on the low ground. Just apply a little bit of pressure and not force an issue. If you force a player to panic when you're actually not ready, that player can decide, I'm just going to send everything right now in that panic. And sometimes it works against you because you didn't expect that player to feel such pressure and move all those units out at that time. And if you're not prepared to lose units in a battle, then you got to keep your tanks unsieged. So that way you can back your army up and take minimal losses and recede to where you have defensive ground. We see that the vultures are coming in on the left side, and this is going to be a constant play for Mong to see if he can sneak vultures in and kill off SCVs at the 6 o'clock base. It looks like he could have maybe made it there across the bridge, but instead he decided to just engage these vultures and try and take as even of a trade as possible. Once that tank comes in, man, tanks do some nasty damage to the vultures. And pretty much, I think 3 shot them and 2 shot once the upgrades come in. Or maybe I'm wrong. Do they 2 shot them? Yeah, the vultures have like no health. They're super low. And okay, so more factories are being built up. 7 factories off the 3 bases. And ultimately, the goal would be to have something like 10 factories inside that main base, if possible. La Mancha's kind of got a small main base, in my opinion. Not that you can't work with it. It's got a small stretch where you can only build so many factories in a consecutive line horizontally. And then you have to kind of work vertically to build even more factories inside that base. And once you start building vertically, you start running into the supply depots at the same time. Oh, here comes the dropship. Is the dropship going to actually get on top of this base in time? Where's that Wraith? Where's the Goliaths? Is there anything to actually deal with this dropship? The turret finishes just in time to start doing some damage on the dropship, but the vultures do land, and the vultures don't do much damage. This was a well-timed out turret. Turrets are so fast to build, too. Last waited until the last possible second, and then he built that turret up. Very nice play so far, but Mong, on the other hand, he's already thinking expansion. As you can see that he's starting to take that base between the 12 and the 1 o'clock position and build that up. Having that additional gas, getting the 4 gases before his opponent is going to be just huge in this game. You want to have that gas because once you start getting towards that late game, potentially Vulture Cruiser setups here. I mean, I think we could see a Vulture Cruiser game if this does go long enough. The map splitting can be very difficult to bust. As you can see that the blue and red are very much in line with splitting this map from top and bottom. And once all these bases get occupied, you have a good amount of tanks that you can't really break the tank contains. But right now is the only opportunity where you can do it before it becomes critical mass for both players. So what I liked in a recent series, what was it that we were watching? There was another TVT where the science vessel was using a ton of D-matrices to be able to win the games. And I want to see that same situation. I want to see D-matrix... I want to see D-matrices come out and really help the Terran player win these busts. You get basically an infinite amount of energy. D-matrix is super cheap, and and science vessels really do help you out. They can help you clear those mines and effectively push forward. So that engineering bay, obviously he's decided, I got enough combat stations. I could lose that engineering bay, not a big deal. This move out to the left is pretty nice pressure. You've got a lot of units that are flowing from the top left for Mong. So if he can prevent Last from taking this section, that will be very beneficial. But Last has a great position. He's got the slight high ground here. The tanks are spread out really well, and there's too much clumping. But here come the Wraiths. 5 Wraiths are going to come in, and you can actually lose tanks very, very quickly to 5 Wraiths. So this is going to be tough. 2 port Wraiths, so instead of going with Science Vessel, it's going to be Cloak and energy upgraded Wraiths as we continue to see this go forward. So remember, I was talking about the late game. You have to have your eye set on Wraith and then Battle Cruiser. I think that's what we're gearing for here. I wonder if we're just going to skip the total Siege Tank versus Siege Tank battle and just assume that both players are too well defended. Not enough Wraith power there to take on turrets. In fact, I don't think there's ever enough Wraith power to take on turrets. Maybe if you have 2 control grids worth of Wraiths, maybe you could take on a single turret. But I just think the damage output is way too great. Better to just, sneak a tank in, try and get an angle, and defend with your Wraiths as you take good angles against the anti-air that your opponent is throwing at you. So a new angle here coming over towards the right side. This is a tough place to break. And I know that Mong is going to try and push Last back, but is it going to be worth it? If he gets caught on the low ground inside that fishbowl as Last pulls units from the left side, it can be really tough for Mong to be able to pull back in time and not lose his core army. What he does when he attacks heavily on the right, he does draw last forces from the left side to the right side of the map, but he also weakens his left side because he has less units reinforcing over there. Here come the invisible wraiths, and the invisible wraiths are going to be hitting that 6 o'clock base that still has a good amount of resources available to it. No, he doesn't want to focus on that. He's trying to just hide and search out. Can he seek and destroy these tanks? Now, in this situation, I would say it would be okay if you took on one turret to try and kill off 2 or 3 tanks, because you can kill off a tank pretty quickly when you have that many units. But as soon as the scan and the Goliath comes in, it's too much damage. You want to keep those paper planes alive as long as possible. Still sitting at 7 factories. Oh, the barracks has actually been killed off, so he needs to build another barracks before he can build factories. But that does not stop starport production. Mong has pretty much had his economy unhurt this entire game, and he has expanded to all the bases, but Last has actually expanded to all the bases too, with only maybe slight economical damage taken, and his army is still in a pretty good spot too. He's decided to go more Goliath heavy instead of Wraith heavy though. And this is interesting. You know, you would think that going Goliath heavy, you could easily win these matchups, but that's not necessarily the case because Goliaths can't get across the map that quickly. And so now you got to think, how do I get them mobile? I need dropships. Well, it looks like Mong has decided to pull the brakes on his Wraith production to go in for dropships, and Last has actually been building dropships too to be able to mobilize his army. We're going to see that the army is coming in here, but this is only 4 dropships worth. I think that this is going to be pretty even. I mean, obviously, Last has brought enough to defend, and you always have the advantage when you're dropping onto your opponent. But a good amount of damage was done. SCVs were pulled. I think that this was necessary. And if you can see that Mong is only 6 supply behind, and he really is forcing his opponent to react and play defensive instead of aggressive. And that's always a great position to be in. These tanks across the bridge, it's a wonderful position to be in too. He's trying to scan across. Both players are just trying to extend the vision of these tanks. They don't have any floating buildings to do that, so they got to use these scans. I wonder if there's a compensation at every command center for Last, because we did see that engineering bay get sent over to just die to turrets earlier. There's a lot of dropships over here, but oh my god, that's a ton of dropships for Mong. And Mong has just really filled up his arsenal, and where is he going to go with those dropships now that he has maximum mobility? Is he going to try and hit these resource high bases on the left side, or is he going to try and hit the production facilities on the right? This is a critical moment for Mong because he wants to be the aggressor. He has built himself up to be the aggressor, and Last has said, come at me, I'm going to defend here. And Last has proven that he is really good at defending in this game because Mong has not found any ways to weaken his opponent. Oh, the Wraiths are going to see these dropships. The dropships are going to be weak right now. How many can he kill off? Is there anything inside the dropships? It looks like they're empty. All of them are going to get taken out. So this is beautiful. Oh, I mean, the Wraiths get killed off, but that was a lot of dropships that got killed, and it reduces the mobility of Last. I think that Mong should attack now. He should go for those drops. And now that the barracks is done, you can see that more factories are going to be added in to that main base. I'm going to have to take a coffee break because this is a TVT, and I am a little bit rusty from my almost year off from casting. Wow, my coffee's still warm, and we're 18 minutes into this TVT. This is the beauty of coffee mugs. Well, I forget what kind of coffee mug this is, but this is one of those ones that like doesn't lose heat for 24 hours. You could pretty much survive a snow in with just a coffee mug if you needed to. Isn't it great, guys, to see how much action is coming through SCR right now? And the DanJJing Star League is just another class above these sponsored matches and tons of fun to watch. This TVT is phenomenal right now. As we can see that Mong has a really nice drop, and he basically put a divot into Last's infrastructure of defensive units and bases. It looks like a stalagmite has just pierced through. I always get confused between stalagmite and stalactite, but I'm just going to go with stalagmite because that's easiest. Just pierced into the heart of Last. I feel like this is Mong's game to lose because Mong has gotten away with everything that he was wanted so far. So easily expanded. You can see that he's pushing Blue back further and further. And Last has just not seemed to have that magical energy about him that you want to see out of him as a Terran player. You know, this is why we are hurting for not having a player like Fantasy back in StarCraft 1. Because of the way he played imaginative TVT, he really made TVT in the late game even more interesting because of his unique style. But I think that's where Mong comes in here too. Mong, I feel like if he had the proper coaching of I Love Uv, would be able to exploit the weaknesses of Terran players and have that pizzazz of Fantasy at the same time. No bases are being taken over. Nothing's being produced from the starports. But here it comes. The late game starport race is about to begin. So many starports have been finished. Is it going to be all Wraiths or is it going to be battle cruisers? Oh yeah. So now we know that the physics lab has been completed and battle cruisers are going to start to come out. Where are Mong's starports? Where are his battle cruisers? How many units has he... they see that there's no physics lab. How many units has he invested on the ground that are just going to die quickly? It's all about this dropship play. Mong needs to start winning right now or else he's going to lose to Last because of all the battle cruisers that will be coming out soon. What a cool game we're seeing on La Mancha. I love to see this late game play. So the tanks are sitting on here, clearing out the SCVs. He's going to lose this spot at the 9 o'clock, but I think that's okay for Last to lose this ground. What he needs to do is just lose the ground as slow as possible. Mong's down to 145 supply. Meanwhile, Last is actually maxed out, and each max number is it's contributed to the battle cruisers. So right now he has probably 150 supply also. But the last 50 supply, clearly battle cruisers. Oh, starports are being built up. Here they come. The first two have already been completed on the left side of the map. Oh, the third and fourth have been completed. 4 are done already. These battle cruisers are going to start to push out. Do they have the photon cannon ready to go? Oh, he's killing his dropships, trying to work up supply. I don't think he'll kill off the Goliath. And tanks are pretty good too. So he's not going to kill off his tanks. Those poor... You know, the pilots didn't even unload before he killed off the dropships. What a crappy way to die. Scary spot here. The tanks are going to be on the retreat. Those tanks have to stay alive. They have to. Oh my god. If you're epileptic... If you have any sort of slight epilepsy, do not watch starports in the late game of TVT. It will mess with you. So there's a little bit of reorganization coming out from Mong, who knows that he needs to defend the right side of the map where all his resources are. I love this. Do you see the science vessels? Science vessels are going to be so huge to be able to help keep those battle cruisers alive in the major battle. And you gotta almost time out the defensive matrix at the right time, because if you do it too early, then they're not going to be focused on when the giant battlecruiser versus battlecruiser battle begins. Oh, a chase down here, a big chase down. Are the dropships going to drop on top of these tanks? Yeah, but I think it's almost bad because the tanks aren't sieged up. What he is trying to do is slow the siege tanks down. Eventually, they did have to stop, and Mong is actually able to win this position. And a lot of Goliaths are coming in here too. Remember, a lot of factories were built up. A couple more were added in here. So the range and the damage of these Goliaths is going to force Last back, and Last is going to potentially lose a critical position. Remember, this left side of the map is so integral. The damage on that right battlecruiser. 2 battlecruisers are in the yellow now. This is not good. This tough damage. And the Goliaths are coming in here one more time, microing and trying to do some more damage. These battlecruisers are going to be really, really weak. There's actually a battlecruiser in red that's at the front, and now the new legion of battlecruisers coming from Mong over from the right side are going to engage, and they should have the advantage here. Those science vessels need to come in, and they need to help out the existing battlecruisers. SCVs need to start doing a repair. Last has got to be feeling some heavy pressure right now in this game. Oh, is Photon Cannon done? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And remember, photon cannons can really even the playing field. And Mong did not get his physics slab as quickly, so he did not have access to photon cannons as quickly as Last has. Last might have more energy on his battlecruisers to use photon cannons also. These battlecruisers are going to get taken out. This is still a critical position here. It looks like the tanks have been handled. They've been dealt with on the ground. So there's really not the ground threat from Mong anymore. And these SCVs doing a mass repair, it's almost better to take out the 3 SCVs. He finally does. But he's in a crunched position here between the Goliaths and these battlecruisers. It looks like the battlecruisers for Mong are going to get destroyed. A reset on the battlefield. That command center is mining pretty well again for Last at the 9 o'clock position. So remember, that is a very critical base that Last now has access to again. I think if Mong was able to prevent that base from coming back up, he would have been assured a victory because of the resource advantage that he has. Alright, so a massive push to the right side of the map. A good amount of siege tanks there. Both players maxed out. But the bank of Mong is huge. It is absolutely ginormous. And I am going to have to take a quick coffee break. Alright. Now, usually we just see turrets across the map and then battlecruisers getting into their battlecruiser clumps. And then it's Deathball versus Deathball until the end of the game. But I think Mong is actually looking to prevent that from happening. He doesn't want to come down to the final Deathball fight, which is why he's staying so agile on the map, and he's constantly moving his ground units. Is there an opportunity for him to take this bridge and take out this command center? Again, this 9 o'clock is so critical. There's no way for Last to take out that 3 o'clock at this point. He has to defend at the 9. Is he going to be able to do it? Here come the photon cannons! Quick tank kills, 4 tanks, boom, out of commission. But there are a lot of Goliaths. You know, I wish that the dropships for Mong were still around, because I think it would be pretty cool if he was able to use those final 4 or 6 dropships that he had to drop in Goliaths on the ground on top of those tanks while he moves the battlecruisers into position. Here comes the photon cannons from Mong's side now, as he's going to try and take out those tanks. Now this is beautiful. So, one, the D-Matrix coming out to defend that battlecruiser, and then the battlecruiser puts down the photon cannon on the photon-charged battlecruiser. So he's going to try and attack these again. He knows that the battlecruisers are open and weak and exposed as they try and take out these tanks. So they have to take hits every time they want to take out the tanks, which is really, really tough. It's beautiful by Last. A great response, good micromanagement. To be able to target and hit those battlecruisers every time Mong moves in. Can you do it? Look at the massive mineral advantage. You know what? Sometimes I wish that there was enough supply, like 10 supply, that you could just make a bunch of stupid vultures and try and run them in to kill some SCVs off on the opposing portion of the map. But there's just too much defense set up from both these players that run-bys at this time won't be helpful. Oh, here comes again. This is a good amount of units for Mong trying to push in. I love that there's still so much energy on these battlecruisers for Last, though. The photon cannon's doing a lot of damage. The science vessel comes in, but it's not doing a lot yet. You know, a well-placed EMP would have been huge. The Goliaths are going to be able to hit those battlecruisers. They're in a bad spot. Having to micro back, that means they're having to sacrifice shots here. Again, if Mong is able to recuperate, and if he can take out... Oh, did he get the EMP off? Yes, he does. He gets the EMP off, which is huge. Reduces the energy on those battlecruisers. The tanks are trying to hold the ground position, but there's so many Goliaths on the ground here, and tanks are going to come in. He could just A-move, I think. I think he can just run across it, but he does not want to risk the extra damage when there's those tanks here that can gobble up the units pretty quickly. You're looking at 2-3 upgrades from both sides. Both mech units for Last and Mong are built up to the 2-3 standard. So what next? Last knows he has to continue to hold, but he's not doing any counter damage. It's basically a game here where he has to rely on better trades, and if his trades are better throughout the entirety of the rest of this game, then he will ultimately win. But he's got to somehow circumvent the 1500 gas advantage that Mong has. He has to be able to burn through that gas. Those depleted refineries at the first 3 or 4 bases are terrible. They're not adding anything. You almost have the the efficiency of one and a fraction of another refinery between those 3, maybe 4th base. I think the 4th base has got to be close to being mined out on gas at this point. Wow. Okay, so the EMP does come off. EMP on those battlecruisers for Mong as he sits back here, and that's going to do another little bit of a reset. No defense against the science vessel there. And maybe that'll make Mong reconsider where he puts some turrets. So the SCV count has got to start getting dwindled down too. When you're down to 3 mining bases, you can really cut SCVs, maybe kill some off, or just bring them over for massive repair units, and that's it. We've got to consider how much supply they're costing, and can you eke in one more battlecruiser if you kill off 8 SCVs? What a trade. 8 SCVs for a battlecruiser, right? Here it comes. He's going to go for it again. Throws off the MP. And battlecruisers cannot hide very well. They cannot be microed back. But I like what Mong did, which was beautiful. He kept one group of battlecruisers back. So he may not have had all of the important ones in that major group, which means that energy is still there. So a lot of turrets are coming in the back. It's going to make it a little bit hard for the ground units to come over and re-support Mong at that position. But you can see that if Last does move in, he will take a lot of damage on his battlecruisers. So it's going to be hard for a science vessel to actually come in and damage those battlecruisers now. This is where I was saying the turrets needed to be built up, and Mong obviously saw after that first EMP, hey, I got to get this covered. Let me get some SCVs over and put them to work. That refinery is actually pretty critical too. If he loses that refinery, that would be absolutely huge. So look at this. Sometimes you're blinded and sometimes you're weak to just a few units being sent on the right. Wasn't I just talking about sparing a few vultures? Just a few vultures could really cause some trouble here and be a distraction. So the vultures are coming in, and while it's not critical, they are going to be starting to clean up some of that worker supply. That could almost be beneficial to Mong. Now, here's the deal. Killing off workers, fine, but killing off refinery workers, refinery miners is huge. Because that gas gap needs to be leveled out. It's up to a 2,000 gas advantage, so it's almost worthwhile to always save 5 supply and continue to run vultures in. You have an infinite amount of vultures at this point, considering all the minerals, and killing off those refinery SCVs is just a magnitude of importance right now. The vultures do get cleared up. It's going to force a little bit more of a defensive posture for Mong. He's going to have to make sure that he can't allow those vultures to get in there one more time. I would almost like to see, with all the refinery or all the factories that are built up, that if they're not going to be used, you just lift them and you do a mass building float into your opponent. That refinery goes down. That's the important refinery. Remember, it needed to stay alive. Oh, the EMP, not a critical one. I don't think it did too much, but losing that refinery is huge because that's going to extend the gas gap between these two players. These tanks have been more than beneficial defending at this base. This is a long wait. I can imagine that the temperatures are pretty uncomfortable on La Mancha, so it's got to be very, very hot inside those tanks. Even if you have good AC systems, those tanks have got to be really, really hot. Can you imagine World War I and World War II tanks being inside those metal units? God, that must have been some of the worst during the hot times of the year. During the cold, those got to be pretty miserable too, but at least you're not walking in the snow. So what are we seeing here? Are those SCVs that were sent over, or are those vultures at the top right? Meanwhile, D-Matrix on those 2 tanks to keep them alive. Oh, here come the photon cannons. 1 tank goes down for a battle cruiser. I'm not sure I'm okay with that exchange. More battle cruisers do come out. So there's a plus and minus. The battle cruisers for Mong are built at the top right, which is where they need to be for defense. But it just really, really sucks because they can't get across the map to try and be aggressive at the 9 o'clock very easily. Well, a 35-minute game. This is a great way to return to casting here. Oh my god, is Mong going to lose this game right now? Is he going to lose this because of bad positioning? The Goliaths do come in. Goliaths doing a lot of damage on the ground. They are hitting his opponent really hard. And Last has decided to take in this battle. I don't see battle cruisers going down. I think that Last is just doing too much damage. Oh my gosh. Mong has to evacuate. He's got to pull back. And look at that. The gas advantage has been completely obliterated. It has been equalized by a good battle here. And now Last is on the aggressive. He's going to push as quickly as possible. This may be his only time. But a quick counterattack. Look at the units gathering towards the left side, guys. Are you ready for this? Mong, he's pulling back towards the defensive position. All his battle cruisers are going to pop out shortly where he can defend there. But the left side is going to get taken out. There's no defense here. So Last has decided that he is going to be all in. He has to take out the battle cruisers of his opponent. Or this is going to be a crazy base trade scenario. I don't think so. I think that Last may have overextended. Is he going to lose a critical base? But he could be taking out the 3rd base too. So much damage from that single turret that is going to remain alive. The command center going down for Last. Mong retreats to his turrets. There was not a good turret wall at any point. When you have 5,000 minerals, you would think that you would need a turret wall to defend against, the battle cruisers in a scenario where Last was able to push forward. But I think that Last has done it. He lost his base, but it looks like he's going to win this game. 102 supplied to 197. No battle cruisers being built at these particular starports. He's about to lose the base at the top right. I cannot believe such a long game for Mong. He was trying to be so patient. All these Goliaths are being built out. So it's been a switch into pure Goliaths to deal with this. All ground units with a few tanks. Can somehow Mong do this? He has to kill off these starports so fast. He really has to. No mining from both players. There's a huge gas advantage for Mong right now, who can continue to build Goliaths. But remember, I think that the photon cannons can be very, very effective, and it's going to be difficult for Mong to engage on the battle cruisers as long as they do take good positions. But there is the huge range. I think that Mong Last realizes now that these starports aren't important, that he has to start focusing on defending against his structures. He can't build any more battle cruisers. He's got to resume back towards ground units if he wants to continue to supplement his army. I think it's got to be all tanks. You need to have massive amounts of tanks to defend with. All the bases are taken out. Nobody is mining except for maybe Last. Got a command center at that 9 o'clock position. Yeah, he does. And the gas is getting pretty close to even one more time. But 1,000 gas still for Mong. It's very, very important. Wow, I cannot believe it. How many Goliaths have been built for Mong? This is just crazy. You never see this kind of transition from battle cruisers to Goliaths. But it may just work. Goliaths die pretty quickly. Remember that long game of C versus Flash? And then C finally just switched over to Goliaths because he didn't have the advantage with battle cruisers anymore? Flash just rolled over him so quick. It was not good. What was that? ASL 4, I believe? Maybe ASL 3. That was so long ago. Flash won them all, though, didn't he? So now we could see all the units moving down for Mong. He's going to try and just completely wipe out his opponent. These tanks are huge. You don't want to engage in those tanks because he could take massive losses. And he does not want to take those losses. By the way, I said last, I apologize. Mong has actually taken that 9 o'clock base. And last has moved over to take the 3 o'clock base. So that's who is mining. Mong is mining. And last is going to have to defend on the right side. It's going to be a complete swap of who is going to own what bases. But remember, resources are running low regardless. I think if anything, that Mong is going to get the upper hand on resources if he continues to expand down to the bottom left. Here comes the massive engagement. Is there going to be even time? There's no time to use the photon cannons. They take the battle cruisers out of commission too quickly. I think that the tanks are way too strong. I don't know why Mong is engaging on these tanks. Wow. GG. GG. Just a few tanks eliminate everything. And that's going to be it. Alright, I'm exhausted. That's game number 2 in a best of 5 series. Guys, hang tight. Game number 3 going to be on its way. Thank you for watching. I am Bisudagger.